Hi, welcome to another video of Cozy Oaks. I do want to basically give you guys a better idea of how to play the skills, or at least explain more of the skills. I kind of went over briefly what all the skills were the last video on the how to play video, but this is going to focus more on the skills and what you can do with these skills. Again, you've only got these 10 that are here for you to use, but I wanted to kind of break that down a little bit further. So basically, on your turn, you're going to play one of these skills, and as I said before, each one of these skills may or may not have a specific time or an amount of cards that you'll have to discard. So for the farming and the livestock, we could see that there is no time that is spent doing these specific skills. But let's talk about them a little bit more. So this farm skill right here, it tells me that I can water one crop, then or plant one crop. If I boosted it, which I talked about before, using rubies, which could be found mining. But basically, if I boosted it with a ruby, I can water one crop and or plant one crop. Now, watering is seasonal. All right, so if I'm going to plant a crop, I don't have any crops currently. So if I wanted to plant a crop, I simply just choose one of these crops right here. And maybe I want to plan. So currently we're in spring, right? So beginning of the game, currently we're in spring. So I need to plant one crop. So if I played the initial card without boosting it, so water one crop then or plant one crop, I wouldn't be able to plant the spring crop. I could, but I wouldn't be able to water it, right? So I would have to, because I'd have to plant it first, then water, where this unboosted side says water, then plant. So it's all about timing. However, I could grab this summer crop here, and this says that it's a summer crop, it's some garlic, and I can plant it right here in my plot, basically having it planted. Now, again, if I wanted to, I can boost it. And if I boosted this, I'd be able to spend this one ruby, so the ruby would go away, and I'd be able to water it right now because it says and plant one crop. So I basically can choose the order of that, or if I wanted to, I could have just planted the crop. But I spent the ruby, and basically what this says on the crop itself, when I water it, I place 3 cubes, or a 3 value on here, basically saying that this garlic is worth 3 produce when I harvest it. All right, so that's going to be my initial farming action. Livestock, if I played this one, I can collect from one animal then or purchase one coop animal. So again, we see that then or again. But, you know, for this one, we're just going to purchase one animal. Now, we don't really have that much money. We've only got 1 gold right there. But the chicken right there doesn't actually cost anything, which is nice. So let's go ahead and purchase this. And right there, we see the little coin with the check mark, which means as soon as it's purchased, I could place 1 cube on this card, and that becomes 1 good. And I can collect from that on a future turn, which is nice. Now, anytime you do grab anything from the village or the town, basically you're going to immediately refill that, but we're going to keep that blank for right now, just so I can kind of go through the rest of this. All right, so the next thing I could do is I can forage. Again, it doesn't cost me any time. And I should also state that the boosted livestock level 1 skill is I could purchase 1 barn animal, which we could see here. The only one out there is the cow. But look at all that. Look at all those goods that I can give me. So that's pretty nice. However, foraging. So foraging is pretty cool because I can gather 1 forageable or harvest 1 crop. I technically, right now, could harvest this garlic, which is simply anytime you harvest a crop, you take all of the cubes from that crop, you're going to place it in the produce bin, since that was a crop, right? And then I discard this card, and it gets placed face down in the discard pile right there. So that's how you would harvest. And then how you would basically gather a forageable is you would just select a forageable. You're going to just draw the top card, and this one says that I'm going to gain 2 materials. And as a reminder, the 4 main types of resources is gold, and then we've got the materials box there where you would also be able to hold your rubies, and then you've got your produce and then your goods. All right, so I would then take 2 cubes and I would place it right here in the materials box. The other things that you can find in the forageables deck could be basically fruit trees. This would let you gain a material. It would also give you one produce, which is nice. So if you don't have any crops going, you can always forage for some more, some produce if you want to go that direction. And then the other thing that you can grab are these bugs. These bugs will be worth points at the end of the game. The more bugs you have, the better you're going to do. So the max you can get is 8, or I'm sorry, it's 8 points, but the max amount of bugs that you'll get points for is 8. So, or 4, my goodness. So if you got 4 bugs, you'll get 8 points, which is pretty cool. So a little bit of set collecting there. Anytime you grab one of these cards, these will just get placed right into the discard pile. However, anything that has points on them, we place them right into our collection shed here, or a collection area if you don't have the game mat here. All right, the next thing you could do is then boost it to harvest 2 crops. So if we had multiple crops to harvest from, hey, we could do that. All right, the next skill is mining. So this one will cost 1 time. And this basically says I get to mine 2 ore. I'll keep one of them, and then I'll have to discard the other one. Or I can simply boost this one, and I can keep both of my cards that I drew from the mine. The kind of stuff that you'll find in the ores deck here is another way of getting materials. So you can find forageables in the mine. So this one would give me at least 1 material there, which is nice. The other stuff we could find are rubies. This is actually the only way that you can find rubies. So if you want rubies, this is the best way of doing it, and really the only way. And the other stuff you'll find are these ores. I'll kind of draw these out so you can see a little bit better here. Basically, these ores, there's 3 different types. There's the copper ore, silver ore, and gold ore. So at the end of the game, again, when you collect this would go into your collection shed. And basically, if you have at least 3 of a set, basically, if I had 3 copper ores, I would get 3 points. If I had 3 silver ores, I get 4 points. And then 3 gold ores would give me 5. And I can collect this many times. So if I had 6 gold ores, I would get 10 points instead of just the 5. So you can collect multiple sets of it. But again, you'd have to do a lot of mining, and that would be fine. All right, the next thing that you could do, what am I doing with all these materials and all these goods and all this produce? Well, you're going to craft. So this right here doesn't cost you any time, and this would let you craft 1 item. If we go right here to the village board again, we can see right there that we've got different items that we can craft. Right next to the item subtext there, I suppose, is your material cost, your goods cost, and your produce cost. So for me to buy that spindle, or craft that spindle, however, basically that would cost me 1 good and then 2 materials. And then at this point, I can choose to either basically sell it and I would get a gold, and then immediately I would take this card and then I would discard it right here into the discard pile. Or I can take this card and gain it as points. However, I'm making that decision right now. I cannot sell it later on. So I'm either choosing to gain the gold or I'm gaining the points. So it's up to you on how you want to do that. If we look at the iron fence, for example, this one's a little bit different. You can spend 1 produce, 1 good, and then 2 materials. You can get 2 gold and then discard the card. Or at the end of the game, for every slime that you have in your collection shed, you will get 1 point. So, and that goes up to a max of 5. So this could potentially be worth some good amount of points right there. So there's that's crafting. You can always sell your resources at the end of basically each season when you play the sleep card. And at the end of the game, for every 2 gold you'll have, you'll get 1 point. But it's actually way more beneficial to, maybe not so much for the gold, but if you need gold in a pick, right away, this is a good way of getting gold. But it's definitely a lot better to utilize the crafting to gain points. But it's up to you, however you want to do it. But yep, different conversion track right there and getting gold and then getting points right there. All right. Crafting, if we boosted it, it would craft up to 2 items. So again, you can craft, do some extra crafting if you had a ruby. Next we have fish. This is going to be level 1. This will let me catch 1 lake fish, or if I boost it, I can catch 2 lake fish or 1 river fish. So we come over here to the lake area. There's only 1 lake fish out there, but again, as soon as I draw something, a new thing will come out. So if I wanted to draw or catch this 1 perch, which is the only lake fish that's out there, I basically would take this card and a new card would immediately come out, and maybe I can possibly catch another lake fish if that's what's out in the area. But if I wanted to, just like crafting this lake fish, the perch here, I could spend an additional time, and that would give me 1 good, and then I would discard the lake fish. Or I can take the lake fish, or this perch rather, and immediately place it in my collection shed. And if I have the most lake fish in my collection at the end of the game, I would get 4 points. And then we could see all the different point values here for the 3 different types of fish. There's lake fish, river fish, and ocean fish. Of course, ocean fish being a little bit more difficult to gain because you have to upgrade your fishing, but you'll get a lot more points and possibly even get more goods. So those are the different things that you could do with the fish. Over here, we've got hunting. This is the most expensive card in the game, at least as a level 1. So this is going to cost you 2 time. It's basically you're hitting these slimes with a wooden sword here. The first thing I could do is I can hunt 1 small slime, or I can boost it to hunt 1 large slime. So again, let's take a look at the area in which all the slimes are at. So we've got 3 different small slimes, and of course we've got 1 large slime. Again, just like the fishing and the crafting, I can choose to either gain the gold and then discard this card, or I can take this card and place it right into my collection. For every different colored slime I have at the end of the game, I would get 2 points. Large slime's obviously going to cost you a little bit more to get at them, but you can get 3 gold, which is crazy, and that's nice. The one thing that's really cool about hunting, and we'll talk about this during the upgraded skill part, but basically the more you upgrade your hunting, the less time it's going to be, because obviously you're becoming better at hunting. You might be using a better sword than just this wooden sword, so it actually costs nothing once you get up to level 3. However, the text doesn't change, so just lets you do it a lot more often without spending too many cards. All right, cooking. Costs 1 time. You're going to basically be allowed to cook 1 food. So let's take a look at cooking here. So we talked about this last time, and basically just like crafting, it's going to cost you either produce or goods or any combination of those 2. And as soon as I cook this, it's going to go in my collection area. But if I was using a level 2 cook card, now my level 2 cook ability for this food here would let me do a one-time quick action. And then a level 3, if I was using a level 3 cook card, basically at that point I would be able to return any discarded cards that I used to spend for time back into my hand, letting me possibly use them during that season, which is quite nice. So cooking, basically giving you energy by cooking these different food items. So that's pretty nice. And then the last thing here is improved. Doesn't cost you any time. It lets you clean up 1 light garbage. And like I said before, basically light garbage and heavy garbage are going to be scattered all over your farm. They're going to be worth negative points at the end of the game. So definitely want to try to get rid of that in some way. This improved card will only let you get rid of 1 light garbage. So you'll have to upgrade your improve skill so you can get rid of some of that heavy garbage. This will also let you renovate 1 structure if you boost it. And this basically is a structure. So you got your basic house, you've got your greenhouse plot, and then you've got your windmill plot. And when you renovate it, all you're going to do is spend the amount of gold. And then once you spend that gold, you'll be able to get this, like basically a passive ability, an ability that you're going to have throughout the game, on top of giving you some more points. This windmill says when you play the livestock skill, you may collect from an animal 1 additional time. So normally when you collect from an animal, which I didn't actually get too much into, unlike harvesting, when you harvest a crop, you take all the cubes and you place it immediately into your produce. When you gain or collect from an animal, you collect 1 cube from that animal. So this chicken only had 1 cube, and then I would put it out to pastures, how I've placed it or put it in the rules. However, if I have this cow, and kind of let's do this in this way here. So if I had this cow going on here, when I purchase it, it would have 5, and I'd be able to take 1 good and place it into my good box there, leaving the rest there. So I can only collect 1 good from an animal each season. However, this windmill would let me collect an additional good from one of those animals. So goods are a little bit better than produce. As we can see here with produce, you would need at least 3 produce to gain 1 gold. But with goods, you only need 2. And the same thing with most of the crafting cards. Most of the crafting cards don't need more than one one good. So it kind of balances itself out. The next thing you do is the greenhouse here. The greenhouse, when you play the farm skill, you may water one additional crop no matter the season. So just like a greenhouse, doesn't matter what season it is, you can go ahead and water any one of those crops, which is quite nice. And the last thing here is the house, which becomes a deluxe house. And then when you play the sleep skill, you can gain 1 gold. It's basically like a little salary for yourself every time you go to sleep, which is quite nice. So again, all 3 of these are going to be worth 5 points at the end of the game. So you choose what's going to best benefit you, and that's kind of the nice route there. All right. The last thing I want to talk about basically are the different skill levels. And we're going to kind of go through this pretty quickly. We just talked about improving. So if I got to level 2 improving, renovate 1 structure or clean 1 light garbage. So I can kind of do that without having to boost it now, which is kind of nice. I can also boost it though, and I can renovate 1 structure for -1 gold. That's pretty good. Or I can finally clean up one of those heavy garbages. At a level 3 skill, or a level 3 improve, this is going to cost me more time. This is more time I'm spending while improving. So this is going to let me renovate 1 structure or clean 1 light or 1 heavy garbage. It's nice. Or I can renovate 1 structure for -2 gold. So a little bit more time, but I'm able to do things a little bit more cost effective. Cooking, we talked about this. Basically, I can cook 1 food, or I can cook 1 food for -1 produce, which is nice. I have to boost that. This one right here, level 2 cooking. Again, I can cook 1 food. It's going to cost me the same amount of time. Or I can boost it, cook 1 food for -1 produce or -1 good. Pretty sweet. And then cook level 3. I cook 1 food, or I can boost it and I can cook 1 food for free. That's pretty sweet. Crafting. Talked about crafting before. Craft 1 item, or you can craft up to 2 items. This one right here says I can craft up to 2 items and then craft up to 3 items if I boost it. But this one's going to cost me some time. Again, the last one only cost me nothing. This one's going to cost me 1. And then finally, crafting level 3. Craft up to 2 items, or craft 1 item and gain both the gold and the points, which is really, really big. Or I can boost it and I can craft up to 3 items. So that's pretty sweet. I love that crafting level 3. Forge. Doesn't cost me anything. I can gather 1 forageable, or I can harvest 1 crop. Harvest 2 crops if I boost it. Level 2 forage. I can gather 2 forageables or harvest 2 crops. Or if I boost it, gather 3 forageables, which is nuts. And then level 3, gather 2 forageables and harvest 2 crops, which is great. Or if I boost it, harvest 3 crops or gather 3 forageables. Mining. Level 1, we already talked about. Mine 2, discard 1, or I can boost it for mining 2. This one's going to cost me, again, the same amount of time, 1 time. But this time I can mine 3 ore and keep 2, or I could just straight up mine 3 ore if I boost it. This one's going to cost me 2 time. However, I can mine 4 and I can keep 2, or I can boost it and I can mine 3 and I can craft an item, which is really, really sweet. All right, next we have hunting. I already talked about this. Basically, the only difference between this is the time spent. In level 2, it's going to cost you 1 time. And level 3, it's going to cost me nothing. So I can just play that card for free once I upgrade it all the way. All right, livestock. This is how you can basically get your barn animals. So from level 1, it's just basically coop animals. I could buy a barn animal if I boost it. However, I can spend 1 additional time and I can collect from 2 animals, then or purchase 1 coop or a barn animal. So that's kind of nice. Or I can boost it and I can collect from 2 animals and or purchase 2 coop or barn animals. So a little bit more flexibility there if I boost. And then here with livestock level 3, it's going to cost me 2 time. I can collect from 3 animals and or purchase 2 coop or barn animals. And then if I boost it, I can collect from 3 animals twice. And level 3 livestock is pretty crazy because that can even chain with the windmill. So that's really fun and pretty nice if you can do that. Nice. I don't know why I said nice so many times. All right, next we have fishing. We already talked about the level 1 fishing where I can catch a lake fish, or I can catch 2 lake fish or a river fish if I boost it. This one right here is going to let me catch a lake fish or a river fish. If I boost it, it's going to be 2 lake fish and or river fish. Or I can catch 1 ocean fish. And then lastly, I can catch any fish, or if I boost it, catch any 2 fish, which is pretty nuts. All right, and then lastly, we've got the farming. Farming is going to let me water 1 crop then, or plant 1 crop. The boosted is going to let me water and plant a crop. So again, I can go in any order at that time. Farming level 2, I can choose 2 of them in any order. I can water 1 crop, plant 2 crops, harvest 1 crop. Or if I could boost it, water 2 crops or harvest 2 crops. There you go. And then level 3, it's going to cost me 2 time now. Choose any 2. I can water 2 crops, plant 2 crops, harvest 2 crops. If I boost it, water any 2 crops no matter the season, and or harvest 2 crops. Again, it pairs super well with the greenhouse. So that's basically the entirety of this game. That's all of the different things that you can do. Of course, once you've played your cards, you would then play your sleep skill. Obviously, there's no sleep level 2 or level 3. But at this point, I can sell any number of my resources if I'd like. Then I would return all of my skill cards back to my hand, both played and discarded. And then I would upgrade one of those skill cards. Now, when I upgrade, I can choose any one of my skill cards, and I can go to level 2. Once I have a level 2 skill card, say, for example, if I wanted to upgrade my farming, I would look through all of my level 2 skill card deck. I would basically have a deck of all these level 2s. I choose one of them. Maybe I want to go to farming level 2. I can do that. The next season, I would then, of course, want to go and upgrade. I would have to upgrade another card. I can go right into level 3 farming if I wanted to. So that option's all yours, and it really depends on what the village board's going to have for you and what you think would best benefit your farm itself. So a lot of really cool choices. Once you've upgraded the skill, then you're going to move that season tracker 1 space, and you move into that next season. I hope all this makes a little bit more sense and gives you a better idea of how to play the skills, what the skills are, and what the idea of the game is. But basically, in the beginning of the game, it moves a little bit slower because you're a beginning farmer. At the end of the game, it moves a lot faster. You're spending a lot more time because you're doing the things that you love doing thematically. So the end of the game picks up pretty quickly. So there we go. That's, again, Cozy Oaks, the skill cards explanation, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.